Hello and welcome back to another edition of 9 to 5 Live. Thematic asset allocation has become very popular in the last few years. But what is it and how do we achieve it? Here to tell us is Fiona Frick. Hello, Fiona.
Hello, Mark. Thank you for having me.
It's nice to see you and thank you for joining us. Before we go any further, could I ask you to introduce yourself, please?
Okay, so I've been working in the investment industry for 32 years. First, I was in an investment manager company for 3 decades nearly, where I was an analyst and financial investment manager, and then I became the CEO in 2011. And I had different knowledge in different asset classes, such as equity, private equity, and also a lot about sustainability. Then in 2021, I decided to build my own company, which is called Circe Invest, to go back to what I love, which is investment-related allocation, and I'd help and consult with asset owners and asset managers to help them in their asset allocation with some consideration for sustainability. I also am at the board of Bank of America Securities Europe and also an investment owner, which is called Mediolanum in Ireland. And also I sit on the board of Swiss Sustainable Geneva and Swiss Sustainable Finance, which are two sustainable entities to promote sustainability in Switzerland.
Thank you. So thematic asset allocation. It seems to mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. What are we talking about here?
Thematic investment relies on the idea that there are some trends which are fundamental, which will govern the way we live and the way we consume and transform it in the next decade. So, such as aging population, energy transition, or AI consideration and how it will evolve in the way we work. And the idea is, instead of constructing a portfolio based on an index, which is generally constructed on market cap, which means that it's based on companies that has grown in the past, you try to construct a portfolio which is linked to these trends in companies that will benefit from these trends and that will have their growth in the future.
Are we talking about an equities-based portfolio, or could this include alternatives, for instance?
It's not only equity, it can be alternative. The idea is that when you invest in a trend or in a team, you want to profit from the growth. So it will be a portfolio in whatever asset class you want, but that will benefit from the growth. So generally it would be equity, but also it can be venture capital, especially, for example, for the technology transition, where there's a lot of innovation going on. And these are startups which are developing them. Or it can also be in more advanced stage private equity, because today a lot of companies are in the private sector and not necessarily in the public sector.
Therefore, for instance, if we're talking about energy transition, that would include, I imagine, fusion technology or the nascent fusion technology. And therefore, in order to capture that, we'd be talking about, well, very big VC investments, but it would be VC nevertheless, wouldn't it?
It could be VC, but energy transition can be a lot of other things. It can be electric cars, it can be storage, it can be even some companies which are active in fossil fuel, but which are transitioning very fast to new energy. It can be cyclical economy and the way you reduce waste. So the beauty with a theme like energy transition is that it is large enough to construct a portfolio which plays on different trends and different sectors that will be affected or that will enable the energy transition.
Why do you think thematics has become so popular? What is it about the current marketplace environment that creates the need for this new type of strategy?
First, there are some very big trends that have been identified, which will obviously change the way we live and transform the way we consume and produce, typically energy transition or the development of the digital economy with AI included in it. And then the idea is that if you look at an index today, it's not necessarily the reflection of what the economy will be tomorrow. The index today is more a reflection of what has been the growth in the past, especially in Europe. You see very big concentration in utilities, fossil fuel, consumer staples, etc., etc. So the idea is that how do you invest in the future rather than invest in the past, and how do you invest in companies which would grow from this trend rather than in old companies that have grown because of other trends? That has made thematic investment quite popular, is this forward-looking bias to the trends of the future.
Do you have a theme that you prefer at the moment, or would you do a mix?
I like to do a mix because I don't want to have all my eggs in the same basket, and don't want to be exposed to different trends. I obviously like everything which is linked, like energy transition. There's been a lot of studying showing that there will be around 5 to 9 trillion that needs to be spent every year to 2030 if we want to get to net zero, which shows the investment potential which is there and the numbers of opportunity that will be available. And as I said, in different kind of sectors, not only new fuels, but also carbon storage, batteries, infrastructure storage, etc., etc. I like everything which is linked to AI because it will transform. Because it's a play, obviously, on semiconductors, etc., and we've seen that with NVIDIA. But it's also a play about how the companies of the future will increase their productivity using AI, and how some sectors will be transformed, for example, in the health sector, in research, etc., etc. And I like aging population a lot because it's also a trend where it is a large trend because it does not only preclude investing in new healthcare, because obviously people that age will want to age in the best possible way, but also in an infrastructure and real estate, which will transform perhaps the society to have some way of living which is more adequate for an aging population.
In terms of, so you mentioned aging population as a risk. For instance, is ES? Some people think ESG is thematic investments. Do you agree?
Some, because obviously, if it's a theme which is linked to sustainable transition or environmental transition or social trends, it can be sustainable. And that's why some institutional clients have started to look at thematic investment, because obviously institutional see their fiduciary duty integrating some sustainability in their proposal. And that's why some thematic can be linked to sustainable as long as they solve an issue which is linked to environment transition or social progress.
Therefore, the whole philosophy behind thematics is that you choose an idea that will be a trend. Presumably, you have to stay invested. It's a long term perspective, isn't it?
Yes, that's the one of the pitfall, is that one you have to make sure that you have an horizon of investment which is 5 to 10 years, because it takes long for this trend to be active in the market and transform the industries in which you will invest. And second, you want to have a portfolio which is diversified enough to be able to ride the cyclicality of the short-term market.
Okay, Fiona. Well, thank you very much for that. I think that's all we got time for. Thank you very much. I hope we'll be talking again on different subjects. Bye
Thank you
bye.
so much, Mark.
Bye bye.